Incoming transmission.
Hey, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot, and what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through all the different loadouts that the Super Earth Elite forces use for the Automaton Faction, okay? All of them will be time-stamped so you can fast forward or go wherever you need to, because there's quite a variety to cover, and each one has its own unique purposes, strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff, and it's important to know what you're doing with each one, alright? So without further ado, let's get started. Let's dive straight into our first loadout. Here we go. Okay, ladies and gents, the first loadout that we're actually going to go through is the Eradicate mission loadout. You guys would have seen me use this on Eradicate missions on streams. If you guys are interested in the gameplay, make sure to tune into streams. This is what we use when we have to do an Eradicate mission, and it's pretty darn fantastic. What it generally comes with is 2 mortars, alright, EMS and the regular mortar. We'll use a support weapon of choice. It's usually the autocannon or AMR or one of the others, and usually a offensive stratagem. If you have the AA guns, operation modifier, where you cannot choose a 4th stratagem, then it's best to have the 2 mortars and your support weapon, alright? Let's go through it in detail. Okay, ladies and gents, this is a detailed explanation of the Eradicate mission loadout. Now, for this one specifically, we're going to go through the primary weapons, secondary weapons, grenades, armor, and the stratagems used. Alright? So I'm going to try and make this explanation as quick and painless as possible. Let's get started immediately. For your primary weapon, what you're going to be using is the CB9 exploding crossbow. This is from the Democratic Detonation War Bond, and it is generally considered the best for the eradication missions. The Eruptor is also a fantastic choice, but features slightly less damage, and the handling of the Eruptor is a lot worse. So although this thing doesn't even seem to say it has armor penetration, the fact of the matter is that you can kill Devastators with it. You can kill you can even kill Hulks and tanks with it, although you have to hit the right spot. But basically, this weapon is like pure explosive, all right? So it actually does really well. The thing you have to account for is the bullet drop, because this thing has very severe bullet drop. It's basically like fire. It's like basically lobbing an explosive crossbow bolt. Slightly better bullet drop than the grenade launcher, I think, but it still has pretty significant bullet drop, so be aware of that. The fire rate is quite literally double of what the Eruptor has, all right, and it's obviously not bolt action, but the magazine and the capacity are exactly the same. So the Eruptor and the crossbow both have 12 magazines, and each magazine comes with 5 rounds. So between the two, the crossbow is generally considered the best choice for Eradicate missions. You, of course, can use other primary weapons such as the sickle, jar, plasma, and scorcher, all the standard choices, but in our tests, basically this is what has been most efficient if you really want to clear the Eradicate mission and do it at a high speed. Because once the enemies clump up, all you do is chuck your crossbow bolts and you're done. Okay, for your secondary weapon, Senator. This is a pretty standard choice for bot missions. This is what we enjoy as our most efficient choice, but if you enjoy anything else, please choose whatever else you like. The Senator is a recommended choice. It's not the only choice, but it's pretty good because, like, let's say one of those jump pack guys comes in, I can just pull out my big iron, shoot him in the head, hopefully so he doesn't detonate on me, and then carry on with my day. The Redeemer can pretty much do the same thing, but may take a couple more shots, which I don't really like. I'm a one-shot, one-kill kind of person, so the Senator is my choice. Okay, for grenades, we currently run stun on the Eradicate missions. Some people have been favoring impacts or thermites, but quite frankly, the stun is the most useful because when a Hulk is barreling down on you, you throw it, stun him, and then you use your autocannon and finish him off. Alright, so that's basically what we've been running in terms of grenades. Now, for the armor, okay, when it comes to armor, in general, I favor the Exterminator armor. This is what I use on all the Automaton missions. It is up to you what you want to use. People have asked me, is heavy armor viable, medium armor viable, light armor viable? All armor is viable. Choose the perk you like, choose the armor you like, and go for it, okay? Just as long as you're not choosing based on aesthetics, okay? That's not how this works. Choose a perk that helps you with your playstyle. For me, the recoil reduction is excellent. The explosive resistance is excellent. The Exterminator is my choice. And it looks pretty swanky with almost any cape. So, there's that too. Okay, let's move on to stratagems. It is, like I said, pretty standard. In case you guys have forgotten over these last 3 minutes, here is the loadout and here's what we use. Okay, so what do we do in terms of stratagems for this loadout? Well, there's a few things in here that is pretty good and a couple of things that are optional. It's really your choice. I'm going to go through them really quickly so that we can move on to the next loadout and you guys have a good idea of what we're using on stream. Okay, let's go. All right. First and foremost, the two mandatory items I feel are the Mortar Sentry, and I know a lot of people hate the way I pronounce it, but I'm going to keep pronouncing it that way, so sorry, and the EMS Mortar Sentry, okay? Both of these are extremely useful when paired together, and the standard for the bot eradication missions is to stay on the outer edge, which you would have seen on streams. We stay on the outer edge of the mission, and then we just let the mortars rain in on the base, while we handle any automatons that come out of the base to get us. So that's pretty much the standard way to play. EMS will keep the enemies in place. Your actual Mortar Sentry will absolutely destroy most of them. This includes tanks, hulks. With those explosives raining down, they will die. So, you know, this is pretty much the must-have stratagems. Now, in terms of your support weapon, you can choose whatever you like. A lot of people favor either the AMR, which allows them to shoot hulks out by smacking them in the eye, or the autocannon, which does the same thing. You throw a stun grenade, 2 shots to the head of the Hulk, it's dead. Other honorable mentions would probably be something like the laser cannon and quasar. Both of these are often used, but I find that the laser cannon doesn't really do so well in the Eradicate missions because the need to focus the beam generally requires me to also take a shield, because if something just pokes me, I get into trouble. Whereas the autocannon and the AMR are both just fire, 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 and forget. That's it. So yeah, I don't like having to keep the beam on the target, but you can use it if you want. Quasar cannon, same thing. If you flinch during the shot, you miss, and then it's wasted. But if you're very good with it, please absolutely use it, all right? Other support weapons can obviously be used, but it's your choice whether or not to use them. What we found is most viable is the autocannon and AMR for Eradicate missions, okay? In terms of your last stratagem, we usually go for an offensive stratagem such as the 500 kilogram bomb. This helps to deal with unlikely tanks, you know, hulks, groups, and also prevents you from killing your teammates because, quite frankly, it's a more controlled explosion than the entire Eagle airstrike. So the Eagle airstrike, especially once you've upgraded it, is less used in Eradicate missions because it can be more dangerous to your teammates. That being said, do use it if you operate it well and don't frag your teammates, then absolutely go for it. Otherwise, go for the 500 kilogram bomb. This is our choice. There are other things you can choose, but I leave the choice to you because that'll be at your own discretion. What we found works well is the 500 kilogram bomb. All right, that brings us to the end of the Eradicate mission loadout. Let's move on to the next loadout, all right? We're going to go through it. Here we go. Okay, ladies and gents, the next loadout we're going to go through is the Blitz mission loadout. Now, this one is going to be different from the Eradicate missions, and it's different from the rest of the standard missions. The standard mission loadouts are going to be also separated by the type of loadout they are, because there's quite a few viable choices for the standard missions. That one is going to be a longer segment, but for the Blitz mission, we have a pretty standard setup that we like to use, and pretty much this is it. We like to use the Eagles, okay, a laser so we can get through the fabricators real quickly, and autocannon, all right? This is all for maximum fabricator destruction, and I'll go through the primary, secondary weapon, and grenade weapons really soon. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, ladies and gents, so as I mentioned before, the loadout that we're going to go through is the Blitz loadout for the Automaton Faction, and for the Blitz missions, we have a particular selection of weapons, armor, and stratagems that we like to use. Okay, so let's go through it. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about the weapons. In terms of your primary weapon, we favor the R36 Eruptor, which has just come in the Democratic Detonation War Bond. Now, this thing can close fabricators by shooting at the vent. It is so easy and so good to use. It has AoE effects. You can deal with whole hordes of bots if you want to. What's the big drawback? The big drawback is it's a bolt action weapon. It has incredibly poor handling and a slow fire rate. Alright, so honest to God, you have to decide whether or not you really jam with this weapon or not. If you don't use it. What are the other options? Jar 5 Dominator. This one is a fantastic weapon that can take out hordes and devastators, okay? What else? Plasma Scorcher. Can take out hordes, devastators, and Scout Striders, okay? The Eruptor can also take out Scout Striders, by the way. So, Plasma Scorcher is another great choice. The last 16 Sickle takes out hordes and devastators, but not Scout Striders. Jar 5 doesn't take out Scout Striders, by the way. So, but this one has unlimited ammo, light armor penetration, very fast to fire, almost no recoil. Alright, So it's really a pick your poison situation. What we favor right now is the Eruptor because we're pretty good with it, and we find that it gives us a lot of viability and a lot of options. But if you feel like using the Jar 5, you feel like using the Plas 1, you feel like using the Sickle, hell, you even feel like using the Slugger, go for it. What you need to understand is that for a Blitz mission, the crucial thing for your primary weapon is to deal with number 1, hordes, number 2, devastators. As long as your primary weapon can deal with horde enemies, meaning the regular trash Terminator looking mobs, and it can deal with devastators, you're good. Scout Striders are less of a worry because that's mostly handled by your autocannon support weapon, alright? So you don't have to be as concerned about them. But a lot of people still favor the Plas 1 Scorcher, so use what helps you deal with the primary targets. Hordes, devastators. These two things, okay? Alright, let's move on. For your secondary weapon, on the Blitz missions, we prefer the Senator. Same reasoning as before. This thing can help you one-shot a lot of the trash mobs, and it is a little better than the Redeemer in terms of what it can do. All right. If you favor the Redeemer, by all means, please use the Redeemer. It's your choice. Okay. Other weapons can also be used, but it's literally, at this point, it is a your choice kind of thing. We recommend the Senator, but we also understand that it's not for everybody because reloading it can be a pain in the butt. We understand the Redeemer is also not for everybody because some people get annoyed with its lower level of damage. Really, you got to choose and pick your poison. All right. Senator is my choice. In terms of grenades, we favor the stun grenade. It is the universally useful grenade right now in the current game environment. We've stopped using impacts primarily because there's so many weapons that can deal with things like tanks and cannon turrets to the point that we just don't really need these impact grenades anymore. After all this fighting with the automatons, it is much easier for us to use stun grenades and just deal with them in that way. So that's why impacts have sort of fallen out of favor. If you really like some of the other options like Thermite, go for it, but be aware that this is affected by the DOT bug, which you may be experiencing. We don't know which players experience it or which players don't, so this might be an issue if you're not the host of the mission. So yeah, we find the stuns to be the most consistent. They work pretty much universally, and they are highly useful in pretty much any combat situation. You could still use impact grenades if you want, but they're not necessary. And certainly nobody uses high explosive anymore, especially if you're running the Eruptor, because the Eruptor takes care of the fabricators. So, stun grenade is pretty much the universal choice right now. Alright, okay, that covers the primary, secondary, and grenade. Now let's talk about armor. In terms of armor, medium and heavy armors are still pretty much the choice of choices. This will literally not change for any of the loadouts, alright, so if you're interested, what I use personally is the Exterminator armor. You can get it from the Superstore. It costs you about 400 super credits, and it gives you the fortified passive. 30% reduced recoil, 50% resistance to explosive damage. This armor set gets me through everything. If you prefer heavy armor, go for it. If you prefer light armor, go for it. Armor is entirely your preference. Just don't go for it based on looks. Please choose a perk that will enhance your playstyle and the way that you do your gunplay or the way that you kite around enemies. This is so crucial, and I cannot emphasize it enough because so many people are like, but what about this armor perk? But if I take it, won't I be ineffective in this situation? I literally have to tell them it's literally your choice. You have to be aware of what you're giving up. Like for me, I can't live without the recoil reduction, but some people are like, I can't live without servo arm. We have some of those people in the Super Earth Elite. It's all about what you prefer. So please choose accordingly to your preference. All right, that's the most important thing with armor. All armors are viable against bots, but you need to understand it's really a preference thing. Choose the right perk, choose the right armor for your playstyle. All right, what helps you win most is best. My recommendation is this, but it's not for everybody. Okay, helmet and cape, as you know, is just whatever because they don't offer any perks or benefits. Now, for those of you that have forgotten, in general, we pick 3 offensive stratagems and a support weapon for the Blitz mission loadout. Why do we do this? Your objective is just to blast the fabs as fast as possible. So, let's go through that. Orbital laser. Throw this on any base and it's going to die except for a heavy base. Heavy bases usually require 2 lasers, but can sometimes be dealt with in 1 if you are smart about where you throw it, how you position it, and what you've already killed, because the laser will try and kill the units inside the base as well. Medium and light bases will obviously be taken out, but it's best used against objectives. For example, you see a mortar emplacement, alright, warning, you are in range of enemy artillery. You hear that? Throw a laser on it. You got the AA guns, all this kind of stuff. The laser clears that. It's so useful. So the laser is always in our recommended loadout. Next, Eagle Airstrike. Where is it? Why do I not see it? No. Nah, I'm just kidding. Eagle Airstrike is right here. Eagle Airstrike, once you've got the ship module for the XXL weapons bay, and I was wrong in my initial video when I talked about this, but the XXL weapon bay will add 1 extra bomb to your Eagle Airstrike. Doesn't sound like much, but here's the fact. The Eagle Airstrike gets so much stronger when you use this. It covers, like, you see a kind of gap in the center of it? Yeah, it covers that gap. And this makes it so much deadlier and so much stronger. So I love the Eagle Airstrike right now. It feels so good to use. This is very good for taking out light bases and medium bases. All right, throw the Eagle in there, blast the units, blast the bases, move on. Okay, this is why we use the Eagle Airstrike. On top of that, we often use the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb. Why the 500 kilogram bomb when you've already got the Eagle Airstrike? Well, look, I'll say it again. Your job is to blow the base and go. Okay, no sense in sitting around, wasting time. Throw your 500s, throw your Eagle Airstrike, go, 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 get out of there. It's a Blitz mission. Now, the downside is that we kind of do need to collect samples, because the last few upgrades are ridiculous. So we're trying to collect as many samples as we can. Blitz missions aren't really ideal for that, but my job here is to provide the information for you to complete the mission as fast as possible. So that's how we do it. Last but not least, we take the autocannon as our support weapon. Why the autocannon when you've already got the eruptor and all that kind of stuff? Because most people may not take the eruptor. A lot of people don't gel. Oops, sorry, wrong thing. A lot of people don't gel with the playstyle of the eruptor. A lot of people gel with other weapons, and that's okay. If you take a sickle and you don't bring an autocannon and all your eagles are on cooldown, what are you going to do then? What if you get teammates that are full on dirt mode and didn't bring anything to help you with the situation? What do you do then? You use the autocannon. The autocannon, if you aim at the flap of the fabricator, it'll just ricochet inside and kill it. Okay, so this is why we do it. Easy choice. There's no need to debate. For a Blitz mission, the autocannon is what we choose. That brings us to the end of this loadout. Now, we'll go into standard mission loadouts, alright? Like I said, if you are bored, please use the timestamps, okay? Because this is a long video with a lot of information. Here we go. Alright guys, what we're going to go through right now is the standard mission loadouts. Standard missions are like launch ICBM, go evacuate civilians. Not the one where you evacuate critical personnel on defense, no. The regular one. It's the go gather data missions. These are all regular missions because they don't have a special classification. And what you're going to quickly realize is that each of these has their own, well, I wouldn't say their own, but each of these has, you know, an optional loadout that you can take. There's actually quite a variety of loadouts that are suitable for regular missions. So I'm going to try and cover all the details that I can. Alright, we're going to do this the same way as before, but this section is going to be a lot longer. So again, use the timestamps to navigate so you can find the specific information you're looking for. Otherwise, stay for the whole explanation because pretty much all of it's important and all of this will help you decide what loadout is right for you. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, ladies and gents, we are now going to go through the standard mission loadout. As I showed you before, there are quite a variety of loadouts here. Like the offensive stratagems are relatively the same, but the support weapons, the backpacks, all of these can change. So just be aware that there is a variety of ways to play this. I'm going to try and go through all of the necessary options, so once again, use the timestamps as needed, okay? Here we go. For your primary weapon, what we have been favoring over the last few streams is actually the Eruptor. The Eruptor is excellent for dealing with hordes of bots, and once you're used to the bolt action, it is a great choice. However, some people also prefer the crossbow, same thing, but the Eruptor can close fabricators, the crossbow cannot. This is the main difference between the two. The crossbow also has a faster firing rate, so it's not bolt action, but it has a lot of bullet drop off. It's got better handling, but a lot of bullet drops, so you have to be careful when using this. It's a decent weapon, but for most of these standard missions, we prefer the Eruptor. Okay? You can also use the Jar 5 Dominator. Do not underestimate this weapon. It is so strong. A single headshot will down a Devastator. You can also kill almost every bot in a single shot. The only thing it cannot handle is Scout Striders from the front, but this is not usually a problem. This is something that the Eruptor and the Exploding Crossbow can do, so in terms of seeing a Scout Strider, the TDK is faster if you use either one of these weapons. That being said, the Plasma Scorcher also handles Scout Striders from the front. It's fairly decent against most of the normal Horde enemies, and it's decent enough against Devastators. So Plasma Scorcher is still heavily favored by many people who enjoy fighting the automatons, okay? The Plasma Scorcher is still very well used, even in Helldivers, so do not underestimate this weapon. Next is the Sickle. The Sickle is a favorite of many, many players. It is rapid fire, takes out any Horde enemies and Devastators, assuming you aim for the head. The problem with the Sickle is that it is light armor penetrating and does not do as well on hot planets compared to other weapons. Sure, you've got multiple ices, but what you have to take into account is the fact that you can still end up out of ammo. So on hot planets, generally, no, people do not favor the Sickle, but it's really up to you what you want to do. On hot planets, still some people are using the laser cannon, so, you know, and in fact, the laser cannon loadout does work on a hot planet, so it's really down to your choice and what you want to do here. All right, you have to kind of pick your poison and pick the strengths and weaknesses of each one to determine what you are going to be able to take on. For us, if you want to know what the Super Earth Elite choice is, right now we're all loving the Eruptor and the Crossbow. These are generally considered the best for these standard bot missions because they take things out in an area, so you don't have to worry too much. You don't have to worry about targeting each one. The Jar 5 is really strong, but you have to target each one. You can also use things like the Slugger, several of the other weapons. Plasma Punisher is still popular. It's really up to you, but these are more niche weapons that are based on whether or not the person who uses them specializes in them. All right? A lot of people have been asking about the Adjudicator. I do not like it, but some people find it efficient. It's really down to personal preference. Our recommendation, Eruptor, Crossbow. These two are currently what we feel is the best, but you can choose your own poison. All right? In terms of your secondary weapon, Senator. Set it in for the other loadouts. I'll say it here again. One-shots most things. It is pretty much what you see us use on stream almost exclusively. Some of our members do use the P19 Redeemer, but it's really up to you. Okay? For your grenade, what we use for standard missions is stun grenade exclusively now. Why do we no longer use the impact grenades? Okay, there's a lot of stuff in the loadouts like the Eruptor and things like that that can now open up crates and also deal explosive damage. So we are less reliant on impact grenades, and therefore we are more reliant on stun grenades, because stun grenades allow us to stop hulks, giving us time to line up a shot with their heads. This means that we don't really need heavy weapons to take on the Hulk, and that is super, super good. So stun grenades are pretty much our choice. Also, if you've got a horde of berserkers coming at you, stun them all. Take out the frontliners with the Eruptor, with the autocannon, whatever. It is just universally good. Thermite got a bit of attention, but unfortunately the dot bug prevents it from being used to its full potential right now. High X is no longer used because, again, there's a lot of options for taking out fabricators and stuff like that, even down in your stratagems. So the stun grenade has sort of fallen out of favor. It is no longer as necessary as it was before. Okay. We also make less use of sentry turrets because ours is more of a run, gun, move type playstyle right now. Okay. All right, that about covers it for the weapons and the secondaries and the grenades. Let's talk about armor for a second. Much like with all the others, my recommendation is the Exterminator set. However, what I want to say is that for the standard missions, heavy armors have been getting a lot more popular. Popular, okay? The F-55 Devastator is currently a favorite. Maybe it's because of the look. It's also from the latest War Bond, but this one is something that I do like running myself as well. All right? It is tough, it is tanky, it'll keep you preserved, but here's the problem. You can still get headshot quite a bit, so just be careful. All right? If you ask me, based on my personal experiences, I still prefer the Exterminator. It's what you'll see me run on stream. I did try the heavy armors. They weren't that bad, but I just didn't like losing a bit of my mobility. So I still favor medium armors. Light armor is still totally okay. Arcane uses them all the time. It's really down to you and what is your preference. Again, like with the other loadouts, please pick your perk based on what you need and what enhances your playstyle. Do not pick the armor set based on looks. That's really not going to help you, and you're going to die. Okay? So please understand that. Okay, now, let's move on to stratagems. I think it's time we go there. Okay, fam, for the standard missions, stratagems are a bit more difficult to go through. Why? Because although there are quite a few similarities, I think you can see the laser and the eagle airstrike in all of them, for the average standard missions, your support weapon and the backpack are going to be varied based on your needs. So you're going to have to decide based on strengths and weaknesses of each, what you intend to run. First, I'm going to go through what is pretty much standard, for any of these missions, and then we'll go through the rest, okay? So what is standard? What do we always bring? For all of these missions, like for example ICBM or whatever, we always bring the Eagle Airstrike now. Once you have the improved Hangar Bay upgrade, which is the XXL weapons bay, it is actually so good to use the Eagle Airstrike because it actually works so well against tanks and hordes and fabricators and everything. It's kind of become our universal item. Okay, you throw it on a tank, that tank is going to die. You throw it on fabricator, that fabricator's gone. All right, so the Eagle Airstrike has become our go-to. When there's a bot drop, I throw an Eagle Airstrike right away, as which you'll see on stream, and then I throw a stun grenade. I stun them, the Eagle Airstrike just mows them all down. So this is why we like the Eagle Airstrike. Next, what we also... I just realized I didn't remove my camera, but anyway, you don't need to see a bit of the extra stuff. Sorry about that, though. The next that we like is the orbital laser. We absolutely love the orbital laser because when you're running those standard missions, what is the one thing you're going to encounter the most? You're going to encounter things like detector towers, mortar emplacements, AA guns. The laser, you throw this on those and they are gone. Now, you have to be a bit careful with the detector tower. Take out some units first, then throw the laser. It is guaranteed to wipe out the detector tower. But if you leave too many units there, the laser may focus on the units instead of the detector tower, which is a problem. However, the laser is just so useful. We tend to throw 2 lasers on the heavy base and just absolutely decimate it, or we use the lasers on particular objectives, and it's just a gigantic middle finger button for most of the stuff. So the laser always gets picked. Always. Okay? Now, we're going to go into some of the optional stuff. So, what do we consider optional? Okay, for your 3rd and 4th stratagem slots, you're mostly going to be dealing with a support weapon and a backpack. Alright, but what about other alternative stratagems? Let me first talk about something we call the shield generator relay. Okay, this thing was popularized by my previous meta loadout. I love the shield generator relay, but you won't see me using it very often nowadays. Why is that the case? Well, it's not just because I'm running with my, team pros that we know what we're doing, so we bring offensive stratagems, no defense. Not because of that. But because speed is so crucial right now, especially with the orders having gone so intense, we've stopped making use of the shield generator relay because while it offers some good protection, especially we used to use it on the command bunker type missions, which have now changed to have 3 command bunkers. So we're kind of pigeonholed into using the laser, rail cannon, and all that. There just isn't room. The shield generator relay is a bit of a luxury. 1 or 2 people can take it, but definitely not a recommended meta anymore. So this is why we no longer use it. But if you want to bring it as your 3rd stratagem, go ahead, okay? The other stratagem that we recommend for our 3rd is always the rail cannon strike. What do we primarily use this for? You got one really annoying Hulk chasing you, throw this. You got one really annoying tank chasing you, throw this. Alright? This orbital rail cannon, you got a cannon turret that's aiming at you, throw this. Alright? This thing will get rid of those straight away. So the rail cannon strike tends to see a lot of use for that. Why not the Eagle rocket pods? Okay, let me talk about that for a second. When it comes to the Eagle rocket pods, they are certainly better because you get 3 uses, okay? And they arm at the same time your other Eagles arm. But here's the problem. As I'm moving fast, I sometimes forget to rearm the Eagle. If you never forget to rearm your Eagle, or you don't mind calculating the waiting time and all that, and being without Eagle protection for periods of time, then absolutely use the rocket pods. But the rocket pods do have a weakness. The drastic weakness of the rocket pods is the simple fact that the rocket pods cannot handle Hulks. They handle tanks really well, they'll destroy cannon turrets really well, but they suck against Hulks. Whereas the rail cannon's a guaranteed one shot. So that's something you have to consider. They don't do well against Hulks at all because I think the box body is like too armored for the rocket pods. If it hits the back, it'll destroy it, but the angle that it comes in at is quite important, so that this can be difficult. Alright, so just be aware of that. Rocket pods have not really worked well for us. Okay? Alright. That about covers the offensive stratagems. Now, let's talk about the support weapons. The support weapons are a whole different matter that I think a lot of people are going to have to work out and get into. This section is going to be long, so it's going to get its own section in the video. All right. Okay. Now, this is probably the longest part of the video. As you'll see, there's already a bunch of different selections for your support weapon and your backpack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the support weapon first, talk about it, and then I will talk about which backpack goes with it, all right, if that is an option. So if you're ready, then let's get into it. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about the King of Kings, also known as the autocannon. This is the King of Kings. It holds the throne. It is absolutely everything, okay? Let's talk about the King first. The autocannon comes with its own backpack, so you don't have to use another stratagem slot on a backpack, all right? The autocannon can take on any enemy, drone, gunships, everything. The only thing it cannot kill is the walker tank, and it cannot kill regular tanks from the front, okay? It can kill it if it explodes the vent. However, the factory strider cannot be killed with the autocannon. The drone gunships, however, can. The autocannon can also destroy fabricators, blow up crates. It deals with devastators, regular enemies. It's just universal, so it gets a lot of attention. A lot of Helldivers will generally use the autocannons against the automatons because you don't really need a shield when you've got the autocannon. As long as you get good with it, you know, you'll just be sniping out targets. This is what I use the most on my streams, and it is very popular on a wide variety of missions, including the Eradicate missions and the Blitz missions. So the autocannon is the universal king. All right, we use this, and you don't need a backpack, so you can take a third offensive stratagem or a defensive one if you're really into that. Okay, that's the first thing. Next, we're going to talk about the anti-material rifle. Okay, the anti-material rifle is a fantastic choice. I really do like the anti-material rifle. It now, after its recent buff, does everything that the autocannon does except closing fabricators. Okay, you can take out drone gunships, 2 shots to the engine, same as the autocannon. Same as the autocannon. It'll take out devastators, it'll take out hordes. You have to understand though that the scope is slightly misaligned. You need to aim with the upper left part of the scope, okay? Which you'll see me doing on stream. If you really need me to show you, you can always ask, all right? But most of the time that I do use an AMR, I will show you that I'm generally aiming with the upper left part of the sight, okay? So the AMR gets a lot of love right now. You can even use it with a backpack, so supply backpack, that's a good choice, or our standard choice is to actually use it with the shield generator backpack. Okay, the shield generator backpack is still very useful. Now, I know some of y'all like the ballistic shield backpack, go ahead and use it if you like, but I still favor the shield generator because it helps protect you against rockets. It can help stop the initial spam of the heavy devastator, or if you're gonna peek out toward the tail end of its burst before, it gives you that extra moment where you can just tank a few shots, align your sights, shoot, and kill. So I really love the AMR with the shield generator pack. Speaking of the shield generator pack, this is also used for the next support weapon choice because, guess what? The next support weapon that we're going to talk about is the laser cannon. The laser cannon has gotten a lot of love, even on a hot planet, because this thing is fantastic. It is medium armor penetrating, which means that it can take out hulks if you hit the head. It does everything that the AMR does, all right, except that the AMR is a single shot burst weapon. This is a continuous fire weapon where you have to keep the beam on the target to achieve max effect. But you can take out hulks all the same, you can take out cannon turrets all the same, you can take out the mortar emplacements, you can take out the AA guns. We've used this even on a hot planet, and it is pretty fantastic. What's the downside? You have to keep the beam on the target. Keeping the beam on the target necessitates the use of the shield backpack. Unlike with the AMR, you cannot take a supply pack. Supply packs can be very useful for teams on operations, so I'm always happy when Arcane brings along a supply pack with his AMR. But unlike with the AMR, where you can forego the supply pack, you can't here with the laser cannon. Because flinching means your beam is off, it might not cross the final threshold, the enemy's still going to be left with some hit points, they're going to come in and kill you. So for the laser cannon, unfortunately, the shield generator is a must-have. And it is a two-handed weapon, so you can't use it with the ballistic shield anyway, so you've got no choice. Shield generator it is. The laser cannon is strong, but you have to know how to use it, okay? Very important. So the laser cannon also gets a lot of love. Last but not least, let's talk about the heavier support weapons. Right now, one of the big things is the Quasar Cannon. The Quasar Cannon is so strong, and you can take any backpack with it. A lot of people like to bring the shield generator pack. You don't have to, but the Quasar is just supreme. The Quasar is supreme. 2 shots to a Hulk's body will take it down. You can 2-shot tanks by shooting the turret up top. You can 2-3 shot the cannon turrets from the front. The Quasar can do a lot. What's the big downside? Big downside is that it has a charge up time, and it's got a cooldown time of 10 seconds, which is surprisingly not affected by hot planets, which is really weird, but whatever. The Quasar is just the universal heavy option, and because you don't specifically require a backpack, you can actually just bring along, like if you don't want to run a backpack, just don't run a backpack. Just literally bring the Quasar along in a 3rd stratagem. You could do that. You could do it together with a shield generator relay. You could do whatever you want. The Quasar gives you a lot of options, and with the Eruptor now being a thing, the Quasar has sort of come into prominence as well, because the Quasar can be paired with the Eruptor, and you can pretty much take out anything in the field. So it's a really good choice. Do not knock the Quasar. All right? In a similar vein to the Quasar, because, like I said, you don't really have a backpack stock with this, what you can also pick is the infamous spear or recoilless rifle. Now, spear's targeting doesn't work for everybody. I personally have had a lot of issues with the spear targeting, so I've been unable to use it. The recoilless rifle is more my speed because it does pretty much everything that the spear and the Quasar will do, but you can manually aim it. So this thing is pretty darn useful because any heavy enemy, like for example a Hulk, shoot it in the head, it's going to die in 1 shot. You can double shot the tanks. All you need is like either someone to reload you, or you can reload yourself, but please do it from a safe location. Okay? So the recoilless rifle will take up your backpack slot as well. It is just generally considered a useful weapon. You can even use the EATs. This strategy has actually sort of come into popularity because of the Helm's Deep defense mission. But the EATs will do everything the recoilless rifle does, just that you have to call it in each time you need it. So some people consider that, hey, you know what, I'd rather run around with an EAT, so they prefer this. But me personally, because of how easily the bots can swarm you, and people often forget that they can swarm you, I don't like to rely on an EAT. I'd rather have everything strapped on to me. So that's why you personally won't be seeing us use the EAT, except on the Helm's Deep defense mission, which we really like, okay? But yeah, the expendable anti-tank, also a viable stratagem. Other honorable mentions are basically everything else in this loadout except the flamethrower. Flames against bots doesn't really go very well, even with the upgrades, but everything else is pretty useful. A lot of people have asked me, is the arc thrower viable anymore for automatons? I'm going to have to give you a sad answer on that. The arc thrower, in my opinion, is no longer as viable. Why? Because the arc thrower has major issues against aerial targets. The 35-meter range doesn't sound like much when it's on the field, right? Okay, it's a big problem against those drone gunships, and your support weapon is one of your best ways of dealing with them. Otherwise, you have to rely on your other 3 teammates to deal with them, and that's not always very good. If you're in a coordinated team and you're going to go frontline, you can still run the arc thrower as a frontline thing, but as soon as you see those drone gunships, you're going to have to scream, help, 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 drone gunships. And we tend to spread out for collecting samples, so we prefer more independent methodologies that allow us to do that. So the arc thrower is no longer one of the meta picks for us, but there's a lot to replace it, all right? It's up to you. Pick your poison, choose accordingly. Just know that there's a variety of ways you can play, all right? That brings us to the end of the standard missions. You've done well surviving this long. I know this was a long-ass video with a lot of different loadouts being discussed, but thank you for sticking through. Let's go to the closing, all right? Let's go do the closing. All right, ladies and gents, if you made it this far, you've done well. Thank you for sticking with us this long. Thank you for paying attention to all the things we were saying. Let's do a quick summary and a recap. First and foremost, you have the standardized loadout for Eradicate missions. This loadout features both the mortars, the autocannon, and the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb. This is extremely useful if you want to survive and if you want to blast targets. What are your primary weapon selections? We prefer the crossbow, we have the Senator, and a stun grenade. Alright, armor is usually medium for me. I prefer the Exterminator armor set, but you can use whatever else you want. Alright? Next in the line is the Blitz loadout. For the Blitz loadout, we tended to prefer 2 Eagles, the Eagle Airstrike and the 500 kilogram bomb, along with the laser cannon, and the autocannon as the support weapon. In terms of my primary weapon, we preferred, for this particular set, we preferred to use the Eruptor, okay? Because the Eruptor is just generally good for the Blitz type missions. But you can also use Jar 5, Plas 1, Sickle. It's really your choice. Unlike with the Eradicate missions, where the crossbow is the champion for the primary weapons and where there's one standout choice, the others give you a bit more flexibility. What about the standard missions? What about the standard missions and all the loadouts there? The standard missions, as you guys know, have a lot of variation in their loadouts. There's a lot of different varieties of stuff that you will see in the standard missions, and all of them are different. All of them have their own ways, all of them have their own styles. So knowing what these styles can do and knowing what each of them brings to the table is extremely crucial. If you guys remember from standard missions, there are loadouts with backpacks, loadouts without backpacks, okay? There are some standard stratagems for the basic missions like the ICBM and all that. In general, stratagem-wise, we've got the Eagle Airstrike and the Orbital Laser. These two are must-have. The third slot is usually a support weapon. It could be any support weapon of choice, such as the autocannon or the AMR. The fourth slot is usually either the backpack, if the support stratagem doesn't come with the backpack, or it's a third offensive or perhaps a defensive stratagem. Really, it's your choice. Adjust based on your playstyle needs. What do we normally use for standard missions? Primary weapon, we've been favoring the Eruptor, but you can still use the Jar 5. You can still use the Plas 1 Scorcher. You can still use the Sickle. You can still use the Slugger. It's really up to you. Pick your poison. Go with whatever you like and whatever you are effective with. Alright? Just because we favor the Eruptor doesn't mean everybody has to use the Eruptor. I mean, I love erupting all over my enemies, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to do the same thing. Secondary weapon is always the Senator. Stun grenades are currently the top tier, so we're more or less using mainly the stun grenades. Okay? That brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching this. I know it was a long one.
Test. Freedom. Democracy.
For real?
Liberty.
I'm ending my video. For real?
Manage democracy. Test complete.
Here I am trying to end my video, and that thing's gonna come in? Okay. Nah. Alright, nah. Alright? Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you having watched this. I hope these loadouts and all this information helps you guys out. I know a lot of people like to show gameplay with the loadouts, but I don't, because a lot of that you see on stream, and I'd rather show you practical situations where I'm using my loadout, where you guys can see me using the loadouts that I've talked about in these videos, and then, you know, you can actually ask questions one-on-one. So that's my preference. You know, I know it's not as exciting as the other videos that have gameplay and all that, but you know, I hope this helps you guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys will benefit from this. And now, let me thank some of the top supporters that make all of our content possible. So April's top supporters, our top tipper, V-Toxic. Top tipper list includes Leo. Top super chatter is Teddy Lasso. Top super chatter list includes Next Weekend, Crow's Flight, Grumcold Thraka, Track Hoodie, Duzza, Rebo Zone, Olivia Moses. Thank you guys so much. Top channel membership gifter is Grasshopper. Top channel membership gifter list includes Lord J and Vinny. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And also, let me thank some of the top channel members right now. Okay. Here we go. Let me thank, starting right at the top, at the highest possible level, thank you to Teddy Lasso and Nice for being OnlyFans right now. Thank you to Arcane Silver and Death Daunting for being Plus Ultra. Thank you to all of our Prestige and Honor robots as well. You guys are amazing. Thank you for keeping this content alive. Thank you for keeping this channel alive. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you later, okay? Thanks for watching this long video. Bye!